Welcome to the Journey of Becoming. I'm your host, Karrie Mitten. Before we get started, a quick question. Are you ready to break through to your next level? Uplevel Your Life Consulting is where executive success meets soul aligned strategy. If you're a high performing professional or an entrepreneur who's accomplished a lot, but deep down knows there's more clarity, more impact, more freedom, more you, then this is your moment. Our executive coaching is for leaders who are ready to push past imposter syndrome and finally own their voice in a male dominated space. Or maybe wanting to design a business and life that truly reflects who they are, not what traditions say they should do. Maybe excited to expand their impact, grow your confidence, and scale with alignment and ease. Looking for a trusted transformational guide who's walked the walk. With personalized coaching, proven mindset tools, and strategic vision building, we don't just scratch the surface, we go deep to unlock your full potential. This isn't about doing more, it's about becoming more of who you truly are. Let's talk about what's possible for you. Book a free clarity call today, and let's create a bold vision for the next level of your becoming. Visit www.uplevelyourlifeconsulting.com or check the show notes to schedule your call today. Because you didn't come this far to only come this far. And now, on with the show. So, our guest today is Anna Felix, a smart money strategist and founder of a financial practice designed specifically for women entrepreneurs, professionals, and business owners. She helps women create financial plans that align with their dreams and goals, making the process easy and stress-free while building family foundations, creating tax-free income for the future, and securing guaranteed income with no possibility of loss. Her mission is simple but powerful: to help women feel safe and supported so they can focus on doing what they love while knowing they're financially prepared for whatever life might bring. Her story is one of courage and conviction, breaking through imposter syndrome in a male dominated industry to create a business that puts women first. She's changing the way financial strategy is done, one client at a time. So, Anna, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. That was so nice. I love how you put that. That was perfect.
Well, you shared that with me in your application. So, but I just, I love what you do, and I'm just so honored to have you on the show today. So, I'd love to just kind of start at the beginning. So, tell us, where you were before you decided to become a financial strategist, right? A smart money strategist, I should say. And what got you to where you are today?
Yeah, well, I can definitely say that being in this industry was not something I ever anticipated. Sometimes your life leads you to places that you do not expect, and that was definitely the case for me. My husband and I owned our own business. I was a linguistics specialist. I taught school for many years. And so nothing financial, right? That was not the thing. But in 2005, we all had a severe car accident, and subsequently, my husband and daughter had severe brain injuries. And so, for 5 years, we grappled with that. As you can imagine, that was a financially draining situation. The costs of things are just crazy when you're choosing treatments that insurance doesn't cover, and when you're just trying to find the best thing. Like your focus is on health and then getting better, and so you're not so worried about the finances. Okay, we have to sell the business. Fine. We got to do this and the other thing. But the reality for me is that when my husband passed away at the end of December 2010, I hit that financial brick wall because what was I going to do? I had so much medical debt. I was essentially starting over at 42. Everything that we had put aside for savings had gotten eaten up in the last 5 years. And it was like, what should I be doing? And because finances wasn't my thing, I can say that my husband and I talked about it. And often today, when I talk to women, it's like, I don't know how to do the taxes. I have no involvement. That wasn't me. Like we were very much a team. We played to our strengths, and that was more his strength. And so I left a lot more of it to him than I should have. And so now at 42, it was like, what am I going to do? Like, I need help. And
Mhm.
so I went looking for help, and I went to see several advisors, and They agreed that my situation was not good. They shared that, I wasn't the ideal client because most advisors are looking for someone that has some money, at least somewhere, that they're going to be moving over and they're going to be managing that money, right? They're not excited about someone that has a lot of debt and that doesn't have a lot to go moving forward. And so they shared with me, yeah, you're not the best client. Don't really know what I would tell you to do, was something else I heard. I also had another one tell me that, I really don't have time to answer your questions, but what I suggest you do is that you marry a rich guy. And he literally said that.
Oh my gosh.
And so, yeah, I wasn't sure how to feel about that. It was, you know,
That's downright insulting.
yeah,
I can't even believe that in this day and age that someone would actually say that. But what women face these days, right? Is that mindset,
yeah,
that women can't handle these things on their own.
yeah, it's above us,
But
right?
we're here to change that, aren't we, Anna?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. And that was the realization, because literally walking back to my car from that appointment, I thought, I don't have the financial acumen at this moment, but from a human being level, from just being someone that's consultative with someone else, I feel like I could have done a much better job with that appointment, right? Like, meet people where they are, like give them something. I clearly was looking for some sort of help. There had to have been something that he could have shared that would have been helpful. And so,
And I want to pause you right there because I want our readers, our listeners, to really hear this, right? That you didn't become a victim to the circumstances that were happening in your life. I mean, yes, tragedy happened, right? But you took it upon yourself to recognize that no, no one's going to come and save me here, right? That I get to take action, and that's such an empowering thing to share with women, right? Is that, you know, and I work with a lot of women, and they're waiting for their knight in shining armor to come riding in on the white horse, right? And I tell them, I'm sorry, but no one's coming to save you,
yeah.
right? That you are not the victim here. And if you want to stay in victim mentality, you will stay where you are. So I love this, Anna. Thank you for sharing. Continue. I just wanted to pause there for a second because I think that was really important for people to hear that, right?
Yeah, it's true. And when I work with widows, and I call them women in transition, women going through divorce, it's all a similar thing. Like, you do have to realize that this is something you're going to have to move through. And so I want
But,
to
but
be
but
there.
not everybody does, though. That's the difference, right? Not everybody does. And then, then they come to me because they're stuck and they can't get out of, the stuckness. So well done. Kudos to you. Yeah,
Thank you.
beautiful.
And I feel like for me, it just really gives a purpose to all of that I've gone through, that I can, when I'm talking to a woman that's going through this, they often say, "Oh my gosh, you really get it." Like, yeah, it's different when you've walked through it, right?
Absolutely.
It's one thing to be empathetic, and it's one thing to, I can try to understand. I was in the same place. I had friends that lost their husbands, and I thought I had been really supportive and I'd been helpful, and I had to a degree, but man, there's a different level when you've really gone through that. And so when someone's, those fears that come up the middle of the night, waking up and like, how am I gonna, how am I gonna get through the end of the month? Like all of those things, like when you've really gone through that, it's different. But as I said, that was my first realization that something needed to change in the space, but I wasn't quite sure yet. Well, what I did know is that in the previous 5 years, I had done a deep dive into brain injuries, and we had been really successful and had been blessed with, a lot of good results. And so I thought, I'm just going to do a deep dive into finances, and I'm going to learn more about this, and more than just, the surface stuff that everyone talks about. Like, really get in there, and what do all these different people say? Because if you do research today on Google, like there's a ton of different, you should do this. Oh no, that's the worst thing. You'll find an expert that tells you that that's the worst thing to do, right? And so there's a lot of things that you got to kind of weed through here and say, okay, what is the truth? Like, because often those people are being financed by a particular company, and that's why they say that. But so really getting to the heart of the matter, and then realizing that as I was learning different things, I was sharing it with my community, and they were saying, I've had an advisor for 15 years and they never told me I could grow money tax free. How does that work? And so as I started having these conversations, it was like, okay, I really need to do this. First of all, I need to do it and put these things in place for my own self and get myself in order. And as I do that, why couldn't I help other people that are having the same situation, women that have the same fears, and let them be heard and give them a platform of, let's just figure out where you are, and maybe you're in a negative zone, and that's okay. There's always something that we can do. And I always say, let me be your financial GPS. And as we put more things in place, as you're able to do more things, like, in your coaching business, like, you have to give someone a goal to work towards, right? Like, there has to be something that they're working towards.
Right.
So, you know, what's the first step? What's the second step? Like, there has to be things that you can do, even if your situation is at the worst. And what I often find is that women often think that they're in a way worse position than they actually are. Like, it's not as bad as they think. But
Mm-hmm.
if you just keep not doing something about it, the
It's gonna
passage of
get,
time makes it worse,
yeah,
right?
absolutely, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
it's important to take those steps, even when, you think, oh, because that's what I always say. What's the worst? For me, the worst was I went there. Yes, I wasn't a good client, and no, you couldn't help me. Okay, that's the worst thing. But for most people, there's going to be something that they can do. And so just knowing that I'm taking the steps and
Yes.
now I have a goal to work towards
Yes.
is makes such a difference.
This is
And
so beautiful. And this is exactly how I do coach my clients. I help them to create clarity on their vision, on their dream life. What would you love to have happen here? And let's take the action steps that are required. And I want to go back and I want to just for a moment, kind of sink our teeth into, you know, you took something in your life that was probably, I mean, and this is my perspective, the most incredibly difficult thing that you could possibly go through, right? By losing your husband and also having, some repercussions from an accident. But you took that and you found a seed of good. And this is something that I share with my clients all the time. And it's really, it comes up quite often with the loss of a loved one. Now, how can you find the seed of good in a loss of a loved one? How can you look at that because I always say nothing happens outside the circle of God's good. Everything happens everything happens inside the circle of God's good. And even though we look at death as tragic, as a huge loss, there is something inside of that we can find the seed, plant the seed, nourish the seed, and harvest the seed. And you are an exact example of that, right? That you're now harvesting the seed of not I'm not saying that his passing was good. I'm saying that there was a seed that you found inside of that, and now you're sharing it with other women. And Anna, I mean, that is so, so beautiful. And I want our listeners to hear this, that just because, there's a traumatic experience, in your life doesn't mean that your life is over. Everything happens for our good. And now for the highest good of all, because you're sharing your gifts that you got to be here today to learn these things, to share these gifts with other women so that they don't go through, the trials and tribulations of financial loss.
that is definitely my wish. And I love how you express that. Yes, because I feel like when we go through these things, again, we can be a catalyst for change for others. Like,
Yeah.
there's no reason why, if women aren't, having better conversations than I was having, thinking ahead to, what if something does happen to my husband? Are we prepared as a couple? Do we
Right.
know what we could do? It works both ways, right? There's often husbands that are left behind, and the wife was the one that did all of the financial stuff, and they, they're not sure all the pieces that come together. So if we can have these conversations as families, as couples, and it not, because often people, oh, I don't want to talk about, when they die, like that's morbid, and that's, that's making them think that I'm
That's
thinking
just
about their.
pulling the wool over your eyes, right? Or sweeping it under the rug, as my grandma used to say, right? Yeah, yeah,
Well, and just, just statistics. The reality is that women live about 8 years longer than men. So, let's think about what would happen if I became the financial administrator of our family tomorrow? Am I prepared to do that? And what pieces would I want in place
yeah,
were that to happen? And so if we make these conversations more, sit over a glass of wine and some good food and, talk about, hey, I heard this story. And I don't want us to be that statistic, right? Like, I feel like, maybe we could have more things in place. No one is going to look poorly on that, but
right.
they're rather going, and I say, it's a love letter to your family. Like, let them know, like, I want the best for our family in every respect, regardless of what happens. And there has to be some things in place for that to be the case. And so,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, normalizing these conversations and not making it and giving it a negative tone, but rather what can we do to up level our family, right? So that we are as financially bulletproof as possible is can only be a positive thing.
yeah, yeah. I love that. And the work that you do is so important. Share with me the mindset, as you're going through and you're learning all these things. I'm sure fear and self-doubt probably set in.
Uh,
How did you manage that? How did you get through all of that on your journey of becoming?
Well, I worked with a lot of people that were, able to help me with my mindset and to see and identify, where I was. There was a ton of fear, a ton of doubt, lots of input. Like, I don't run my business like most financial agencies do. And so, who are you to figure that out? But a lot of people helped me. And one of the things that I learned was it's never about me, it's about them. And
Mm,
so if I could put what I was feeling, being an imposter, like not very many people have built a business on this type of a platform, but who am I helping?
mm,
What are the responses? How are they being benefited? And then it was like, oh, then it's super easy. Like, so if I took myself out of the equation and was just like, this person needs help, let me help her. Let me help her put those pieces together. And then the results of, oh, I sleep better. I feel so much better. Oh my goodness. Like, those type of things were just, they just lit me up. And it was like, okay, I've got to take myself out of the equation and do this. And then just, really focused on, I didn't have the best relationship with money, and I didn't realize that. Not in that I'd always been a good steward of money, I'd always handled it well, but I didn't have an abundant mindset when it came to money. And so working on that myself was huge as I was going through this journey.
yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, there's always little bits of mindset work that we need, which is why your work is so important, because that really limits or expands our ability to grow in whatever we're trying to do.
So true, so true. And women to have a tendency to not have a good relationship with money because money is actually the energy of money is feminine. And feminine energy is receiving. And
Yeah.
most women have a very challenging time of receiving. I mean, think about receiving a compliment, right? Think about receiving a gift, and we brush it off and we say, oh, this, thank you, or whatever, but we're not really receiving it. And so the same thing with money is we don't receive it like we should and recognize that abundance is my birthright, that I'm absolutely worthy of all of any money that comes into me, right? And that if women only understood that income equals impact, the more income you receive, the more impact you can have in the world, right? So yeah, I love that. Yeah, and good for you for recognizing that and noticing, because I mean, I'm not a money coach, but I talk a lot about money in my programs, And if I didn't have an abundant mindset, I wouldn't be able to support my clients in changing their mindset about that. So good on you for recognizing that.
Lots of growth. Yeah, I was growing with them as I was going. Yes.
We're always growing and always learning, right? There's always more things, and until we, lay our head on the pillow for the very last time, we're always growing. I mean, that's what we get to be doing, our human nature. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
So, looking back on everything that you've gone through, to get where you are today, what's the one piece of advice? If you were to give one piece of advice to our listeners today, what would that be about your journey of becoming?
Wow, lots of things, but I would say to always be a student.
Yes.
And don't think that you know everything or that, or that you should know everything, right? I mean, like we're always learning. So be open to learning. And if someone is sharing something with you that you've never heard before, like open arms, embrace it. And, even if in the beginning it's a little bit like, I don't know, this is that, but just really consider it because there can be so much good beyond that. And the fact that you don't have to know everything is also kind of a relief if you accept that and realize, tomorrow I get to learn more. I every day I try to learn a new thing, and I think it just keeps life interesting and it makes it more enjoyable, and you are then going to be open to many things that you may need that you're not aware of yet.
And that is our journey of becoming, right? Is a learning opportunity. Everything is a learning opportunity. I always share with my clients, even, failure is a learning opportunity. It's not a stop sign. It's not even a roadblock. It's an opportunity to learn and grow and become.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much, Anna, for sharing your incredible journey with us. And I know that hearing these words from you and just our listeners are going to feel inspired to keep moving, to keep taking bold action, doing the things that are required on their journey of becoming. So before we wrap up, where can our listeners connect you and learn more about your work?
So it's probably easiest just to go to my website, annafelix.com, ANNA, Felix.com. I'm also very active on LinkedIn, so you can find me there, see some of the articles that I post, some of the videos.
Wonderful, beautiful. Well, thank you again for being here today. I know your story are going to leave our leaders feeling empowered, ready to take action. And so, for everyone tuning in, remember your journey of becoming starts with one brave step. So, take that step today. Until next time, keep embracing your transformation.